Right, welcome everyone. With it being right at 6 o'clock, we'll get started here. And Jolene, if you could do roll call.
Council members Erickson,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Valento is absent tonight. Mayor Roberts.
Here. And if you're able, please join us, stand and pledge allegiance. Council, we have an agenda in front of us. Is anyone interested in making a motion to approve?
Also move.
Second?
I'll second it.
Motion second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Have an agenda. Let's see, item number 5, awards and presentations. We don't have anything this evening for that. So item 6, open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to come speak to the council on any city matter. Please try to leave your comments limited to around 3 minutes. And if you do come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Jeff Watson. I currently live up in Stacy, Minnesota, and my concern is, my main question right now is if you guys are aware of the situation that's currently happening in Minnesota, and especially down in Minneapolis at this moment with ICE and the way they're out of control. Because last Friday, we did a general strike and protest down in Minneapolis, and they had about 400 businesses that participated in this general strike, and we had 50,000 plus people down in protest. Well, now we are doing another strike this Friday, and we're trying to do more outreach and trying to get more businesses, more cities in support of Minneapolis. And I was just curious if you guys would be willing to participate in that and try to do more outreach with local businesses in this area. I'm currently trying to reach out to Wyoming, Stacy, and North Branch as well to try to get a complete shutdown in support of Minneapolis and Minnesota in these trying times. So I'd just like to hear your answer on that.
Yeah, so in this open forum, there's not a lot of back and forth, but if you wanted to leave your name and number with city staff, someone could reach out, and myself would be willing to reach out as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming this evening. I think the next gentleman is more on an agenda item for the Bell Consulting, or would you like to speak now?
Mayor Roberts, it isn't an open forum or a public hearing tonight.
Okay.
So this would be the time for public comment unless you asked for public comment when we spoke about it later.
Are you interested in speaking to this during open forum?
If there's any specific questions, I'm happy to. I think where we left it was adding language for the concealment and camouflage. So, yeah, whatever has been proposed.
Okay, I think if council has some questions,
Just a quick point of clarification. So item 8AI says public hearing on the agenda.
Oh, well, we can do that. 8, sorry. It's giving me
Our
a
first
second.
action item, as I read the packet, I understood. that,
No,
yeah.
it's for 8C. It's here for the wireless towers.
Oh, I
We have
understand.
2 ordinance amendments on tonight. Busy night in our legislative capacities.
Gotcha. All right.
but if we have questions at that time, we can ask. Okay, anyone else interested in coming to speak in front of the council tonight? All right, with no one else, we will move on to the consent agenda. I'm going to make a motion that we approve consent agenda items 7A through D, and then F through M.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. So what we'll do then was we'll move that item that I pulled as the Belts Park Volleyball Court addition to our first item, and I would guess that Dave would speak to that.
Yeah, what would you like to know about that, other than what's in the memo?
So I guess a couple questions, just the long-term plan of that and location, I know it was talked about at the Parks and Rec Commission. Just questions on how the location of that from where the ball field is still existing. I think that's the long-term plan to keep that ball field, and then how, if then ice would then go over that space, we're gonna continue to use that for a rink. I think that's what it is. But I did, there's more public conversation just to let people know that what we're deciding here tonight.
So we met with the Parks Commission probably last October-ish and brought up questions of possibly moving that rink to a different location, and or if they wanted a volleyball court still at Belt since it was taken out during that reconstruction. The commission was pretty set on keeping that rink there. They wanted that in that neighborhood. So since we're putting a volleyball court back, we figured making a dual purpose where you could flood that sand in the wintertime, and then in the summer it'd be a volleyball court, plus take advantage of using the lights for the rink, so you could use those volleyball courts at the nighttime. That's why we kind of decided, or proposed moving it to that location where you see on that picture inside the memo. It's a bad picture in the memo, because it's really not that size. It's about 80 feet by 100 feet. It just looks like it's bigger than what it really is in there. The overall goal would be to get it farthest to the west as possible and farthest to the north as possible, is keep about 150 feet yet for that baseball court or baseball field, and out of the way for that proposed, or not proposed, but if we ever put that parking lot in there, we'd keep it out of that footprint as well, so we won't have to move it again. The green space where that volleyball court used to be, that was talked about moving it maybe back over in that area, but it's been reported pretty heavily that people are using that green space now. We don't want to just jam 2 volleyball courts in that green space and put a volleyball court or, 2 in that area. So after that discussion, it was kind of decided, if it feels like you're jamming a lot of stuff in one area, but you're leaving that whole other green space for green space now or something potential in the future.
Dave, you're limited on the north by that paved trail, which isn't reflected in this picture. That what you're suggesting relative to size, knowing that we have that hard stop on the north side, how, as you look at this picture relative to, say, the tennis courts, this current picture I'm looking at shows that the volleyball courts would go about halfway. I'm assuming that may or may not be accurate, and my spatial, isn't great. So what are we talking, like how close to the baseball field are we going to end up being, knowing that we're limited on the north end?
The goal is to get it as about 150 feet away from home plate. I would still be able to use for a youth baseball field. When I measure just in the aerial to where the rink is right now, it's about 145 to 150 feet. So what I laid over that volleyball court is basically where the rink is right now. So it'd basically just be turning the ice rink right now into sand, making sure we're not infringing on where that parking lot may go on sometime, not into the hill, and then as far as possible away from that baseball field.
Thank you.
Do we put a liner or something down to keep water from going into the ground?
We tried that in the past when it was just on the grass, and the problem was it would kind of heat itself from the bottom, and then we would have open water on the bottom of the rink and then ice on the top. I think with sand, there's that possibility now to be able to put a liner in there, just because you can freeze that sand and you're not going to have that warmth coming from the ground temperature. We're having the troubles right now at Belts. It's 20 below and you're still getting frost boils from underneath the ice. So anything will be better than what we have right now. Sand is really good to flood over top of. You might not even have to put a liner in it. Liners are just expensive. They're $3,000 to $4,000 that you just throw away at the end of the year. You can't. Really plastic.
You probably haven't done a survey, but last year, even though it seemed like it was open and closed, are the usage for the rink about the same, or you probably haven't run those numbers yet?
In comparison to like Tower Park?
Well, right, and even to last year, have those numbers gone up, or they stayed flat, are they down a little?
I know we have numbers currently right now, we're 800 plus at Tower and we're about 100 or so at Belts, so it's significantly less. Belts Park.
I know I'm asking a lot here, Dave, but do you know what the average distance from home plate to an outfield fence for a Little League team is?
You like to get 150 feet, that's where you wanna get for like a 10U field. And that's what that field was kind of made for, you know, softball as well. I mean, it's not made for 12U or people crushing home runs. It's T-ball and little kid ball. I mean, I don't think you'd ever want it anything more than that, or then you're worrying about balls going to St. Pete's garage or parking lot or onto South Shore Drive. I think you want to keep it just like for little kids to play on.
So we'd have that distance.
Yep.
Just for reference, the home plate to the sidewalk that's, so down the left field line, I would call it, is about 170 feet just to that. So you're really not cutting that much off what you have already there as a limitation.
You're more restricted by the tennis courts. I mean, you'd almost have to build like a Green Monster type of deal to shrink that distance, but your right field is probably restricted just by the hill that was always there versus the center field.
And will there be, packet, I apologize, but more standard, like a permanent footing where the poles go into and then they're just taken out at the end of the season?
Yep. So they were just like telephone poles and like a tennis net that was up there. So it's planned to get real actual stanchions for volleyball court that'll be ground mounted, so you can slide the tube in there in the summertime, and then winter you pull the tubes out, cap it, and then you can flood it, and then in the spring you just take a metal detector, find them again, and put them back up. It's also gonna have the actual border string around there too, so when people come and play, it actually shows what the court, you know, the size of the court's all laid out and stuff too. So it's gonna be a definite improvement of the court itself, plus two of them. If you're gonna make it that big for the ice rink, you might as well, if you're putting the sand down and cutting it out, you might as well make it for two. And I think you're gonna see a lot more people using it just with the lights on it at nighttime too, that people can use it in the fall and the spring and up it.
I do like that idea, have it lit for just more usage, so.
And it's a lot, I mean, it's at $14,000, but Public Works is probably eating another 15 to 20,000 off it just by doing all the shaping work and putting the sand in and doing all the underground stuff. So I mean, basically that $14,000 is just for the sand and for the equipment. The rest is just done with Public Works staff.
I would say my former employer, we built one volleyball court for $14,000 about 10 years ago. So this is a pretty good.
Great. Great. Anyone make a motion on this one?
I'll make a motion to approve the installation of the new volleyball courts at Belts Park using the park dedication funding as presented tonight.
I'll second it.
Right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Dave. Right, item 8A. So the next two items, I've made public a number of times, I am likely going to be into the cannabis business, so I will be turning the meeting over to another council member. We have a different situation here this evening. Acting member, or Council Member Valenta, who is acting mayor, is absent, so the three council members will make a decision as to who is going to lead these next two items. So I will be leaving the room.
Councilmember Larson, unless you have any objections, I would make a motion to appoint Leaf as our acting mayor for this discussion.
Would second that motion.
Thanks, guys.
All in favor, Mr. Mayor?
Do we need an actual motion? All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Here we go. We're legal, and I'll just make a note that Mayor Roberts has left the room for this conversation. So first on the item, cannabis buffer zoning ordinance text amendment. Abby, you want to walk us through, please?
Yes, late last year, you heard an application from Forest Lake Cannabis. They were requesting an interim use permit, an IUP, to allow for retail cannabis at a property that was located within 250 feet from residentially zoned property. It was at that time we discovered that there was an inconsistency in the city code in that we had put in buffer requirements, but we had tied them to licenses. And the intent really was to tie them to use cannabis-based businesses. At the time, the council directed staff to work with the planning commission on an ordinance that would clear up that code, and that's what's before you tonight. Ordinance 766 defines cannabis activities. It applies a 250-foot separation requirement from those higher intensity uses, so the manufacturing, the distribution, but it it no longer requires a buffer distance from the retail uses. We retain all other performance standards. No other sections regarding our cannabis regulations would change. Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this on January 14th, 2026. They did recommend approval to this council, as staff is as well. There was one note of concern, and I think that this has been echoed by staff, and I think even the council, is just this whole idea of what if a license, what if they do want to expand? What if they go and they expand? Well, it's no different than any other use permit we issue anywhere in the city. We can say, you know, this restaurant is allowed to have these indoor operations, but the minute they spill out in the street, it's a violation of the code we enforce. Same thing would be the case for cannabis. We don't have any case law to point to. All we can say is we have tools to deal with that if that would happen, but we don't believe that is going to be the case with our retail establishments. So tonight, staff is asking you to hold a hearing on this matter, and after you've taken all testimony, discuss ordinance number 766. And as noted, both the Planning Commission and city staff would recommend you move to approve ordinance 766, amending Title 15, Chapter 153 pertaining to cannabis businesses. Any questions?
No, by me, you guys? No. Right. Thank you, Abby. So with that, let's open the public hearing for ordinance number 766 at 6:17. Is there anybody that would like to speak in this public hearing? Anybody at all that want to speak to this hearing? All right, seeing none, if it's okay with legal counsel, we'll close the public hearing at 6:17. Okay, thank you. And bring conversation back to council. So what questions do we have for Abby about this zoning ordinance?
I think I'm good with, we've discussed so much of it, and the 250 feet was my biggest concern, and it sounds like if they want to spill out into the street, we have tools to deal with it, so
That is correct.
I don't know what else we can do.
I think we cleaned it up. And I mean, thank you for your time.
Our
on it.
attorney can weigh in on it.
Your Honor, Counsel, if I may, if you recall way back in December, November, when we first talked about this, we were trying to get a hold of the Office of Cannabis Management to get some direction from them. I did finally get some response from them, and it does sound like for a micro business or a mezzo business, whatever their endorsement is, in other words, if they're allowed to do retail sales or they're allowed to do manufacturing or they're allowed to do cultivation, whatever they get for their original endorsements, if they want to add an additional endorsement to that later, in other words, expand their business from just retail to manufacturing, they do have to go back to OCM, apply, and then OCM has to send all of that information to us, just like the first license application. So I do have that in writing from OCM, so that resolves some of the concerns around expansion of the business into an additional use.
So with this zoning ordinance change, so we will not, correct me if I'm wrong, we will not have any sort of a separation for retail business from residential?
That is correct.
Okay, and that's in alignment, or do we have any of those sorts of separations for any other retail businesses in town?
For general residential, the clerk could, or Jolene could correct me for like our liquor and our tobacco, do we from just straight residential uses?
We don't have any buffers for residential uses for those other licenses. We do have buffers for schools and I believe daycares.
And all of those buffers would still remain in place for schools, daycares, and residential treatment facilities, I think was the other one.
So this aligns with our other controlled businesses. All right, thank you. All right, so any further discussion or questions, or I'll entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 766, amending section 153.092 UU of the city code to apply the residential separation requirements for cannabis businesses based on site activities rather than the state license type.
A motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, item 8B, Forest Lake Cannabis Interim Use Permit. Abby.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Erickson. Members of the council, in November, you heard an application from Budding Measures LLC, otherwise to be known as Forest Lake Cannabis, looking for an IUP for cannabis-based retail sales. This was the applicant that you had received an application from directly pertaining to that residential buffer requirement that we acknowledged was kind of a whoopsie in the code. At that time, the council was not prepared to move forward with an IUP with various conditions. So you've elected to table the IUP, directed staff to amend the code. Tonight, this is being brought back before you for conformity to the city code and issuance of the IUP, which would allow for Budding Measures LLC to operate a retail-only cannabis-based business at 1467 Lake Street South. Included in your packet is a resolution 0126-2601, granting an IUP to Budding Measure Movement for retail-only cannabis operation at that site, and staff would recommend that you consider approval for it. Applicants are here if you have any direct questions for them. Do you have any for me?
Thank you, Abby. Any questions for Abby
No.
or the applicants?
No.
Well, I know we've discussed this one before. Doesn't sound like there's too much question on the table. So I'll entertain a motion if there's anybody so moved.
I would make a motion to approve the resolution 0126-2601, granting an interim use permit to Budding Measured Movement LLC for retail-only cannabis operation at 1467 Lake Street South, subject to the following conditions, which there are
They're listed in the
14 of them.
attached.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries.
Good luck with your business.
Right, and we'll bring Mayor Roberts back in to carry on the meeting. It's 10 minutes.
Right, 8C, Single Family Zoning District, Towers Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment. And Abby.
Thank you, Mayor Roberts, members of the council. At your last meeting, you heard a request from Buell Consulting for a zoning ordinance text amendment that would make certain modifications to our regulations for wireless towers. At that meeting, you directed staff that you were favorable to some of the amendments, but that there were others that you had some concern over. Specifically, you were favorable to allowing for wireless towers in the single-family residential district, but only when they are 10 acres in size and guided for public institutional in the future land use map. You also wanted to require stealth camouflage design. Included in your packet tonight is ordinance number 765, which memorializes that council direction and would amend the code accordingly. Additionally, in your packet is a resolution 01262603, which denies the applicants requested the other items they've requested, essentially making the findings of why it is we don't want to change the code. So staff recommends that you consider the items as you previously discussed, and then move to approve resolution 01262603, denying the requested amendments, and approve ordinance number 765, amending Title 15, Chapter 153, pertaining to wireless communication towers. Any questions?
Questions?
They got it. based on our discussion.
I wasn't here for the last discussion, so I'll take your guys' word for it.
Oh, no.
I read through the packet, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, if you're okay, then we'll make a motion to approve Resolution 01262603, a resolution denying requested amendments to wireless communication tower standards, and approve ordinance number 765, an ordinance amending Title 9, Chapter 153, Title 15, Chapter 153, Section 153.065, Section 153.069, and 153.092 pertaining to the wireless communication towers.
Great. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, 8D, Spikes and Hools Planned Unit Development in Abbey.
Well, again, as noted at your last meeting, you approved planned unit development and site plan approval for Spikes and Hools Phase 2. You approved a resolution for it, but included in that was not an ordinance that changed the zoning ordinance, the map. Staff is bringing that back for formal council consideration, just the memorializing your approval with ordinance number 767. Staff would recommend the city council move to approve ordinance number 767, amending the official zoning map from MU1 to PUD, and then also approving an accompanying summary publication resolution of 01262602. Any questions?
Again, I think you got it all, but then you probably weren't there for that one either.
Take your word for it.
Did you have any questions?
No, I'd heard about the conversation, so I'm good.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 767, an ordinance amending the City of Forest Lake official zoning map, rezoning all property associated with Spike and Hools from MU-1 to PUD, and approve resolution 012626-02, authorizing publication of the summary of an ordinance number 767.
All right,
I will second it.
motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. Moving right along, 8E, city sign name modifications. Dave?
Yeah, we were here last council meeting and we decided on that new logo and we said Public Works' big concern was that just adding that 6 inches for just creating that extra weight and extra place for that wind to go. And after the meeting, staff kind of brought up and said kind of, hey, big dummy, there's another way you can do this and still kind of keep the signs the same. With that, if you look at the memo, our current ones spell out the avenue and the direction, so it's longer, wording for all of our signs. Washington County kind of has those signs where they tuck in the avenue north or the street north and make that smaller writing with the block number. Doing that would, at a minimum, cut all those signs back down 6 inches, and basically then that logo would be a wash. You'd end up with the same size. I think there's two benefits. You save dollars that actually would be any cost extra now to putting that logo on, because you'd be saving the 6 inches on your overall length. That, and then it would just match the county signs too. I think then all the signs when you're driving down the street will all look exactly the same, or they'll be numbered and lettered exactly the same. So I should have thought about this when we had our last council meeting, but I think if we're gonna make the change and add the logo, we should, at least I would recommend that we change that lettering as well. Questions?
No, seems to make sense.
I actually think it looks nice, as long as you're putting the logo on, change them up a little bit so they have a whole new design.
Like,
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you're okay with it, I'll make a motion to update the street sign lettering to 6-inch main lettering and 2-inch designation and block letters.
is there a second?
Second?
Motion's in a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 8F, local option sales tax. And Ellie?
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Tonight, in front of you, we are going to walk through the local option sales tax. Last Tuesday, at our workshop, we went through an in-depth presentation that you can find online if you are wanting to look through it again. But the main highlight tonight is we are seeking legislative approval through the resolution to submit a proposal for a 0.5% sales tax to be included on all eligible taxable goods for the city of Forest Lake. What this looks like is, these are 2023 numbers, because with any sales tax, we're 2 years behind. And so we are assuming that by 2026 and 2027, this will generate roughly $2.5 million a year. And so we are assuming that this 0.5% sales tax will go for 20 years, generating roughly $50 million. The reason we are implementing this is because it will go to support the new public works facility. In order to get this process started, we will submit the resolution to our legislators, and then once that is submitted, they will then take the opportunity to review it and vote on it. If we do get legislative authority, it will come back in front of the council and come back in front of the city of Forest Lake for adoption and to request a vote. This is something that is determined ultimately by citizens. All we do is generate the paperwork, talk about the pros, the cons, and what that actually looks like. And then once that referendum is held, that will determine if the sales tax is going to actually be implemented. And if it does get approved, we would do a city ordinance, and then we would move forward with it. But a little bit more about the logistics of the sales tax is, through the University of Minnesota, they conducted a study, and roughly 47% of it would come from residents within the city of Forest Lake. And so, big picture of the study, they broke down traffic patterns, people coming in, people coming out, where businesses are spending money, what time that's being spent. And they then determined 54% of it comes from non-residents. And so that would allow us, because this is a regional facility, to spread out that funding to then take less pressure off of just the residents of Forest Lake, because then it would go to support everybody actually using it. With that, Mark, did I miss any of the major points?
No, I would just say that, there's a timely article in the League of Minnesota Cities here. In fact, the cover's about local option sales taxes. And in here, you'll see that there's kind of a little sidebar here. It talks about the 6 steps. I want to make sure that the public is aware that this is only step 1, and there's a deadline here. We realize that some people might be kind of alarmed by the idea of talking about a sales tax and voting on a resolution to put this in front of the legislature. We understand we're a long ways away from, actually doing this and deciding that this is the way we want to fund that facility. But unfortunately, we need to do that now because of the legislative schedule. If we waited till next year, then we're out really until 2028 because this has to be done during a general election. So you would have to, if you would approve the resolution tonight and gain support from your legislators to put forward legislation, it would then have to go to a referendum vote on the next general election, which of course would be this coming year, so this November. So the timing of it is such that we need to kind of keep our name in the hat, if you will, for now. And this is, again, just step 1 of 6 to actually enact this. And so there's a lot of time here yet for the public to weigh in on this. In fact, it's a system that really heavily favors public input in the sense that it comes to a vote at some point. And so we feel like this is a good step to make sure that we have all of our options still on the table as we navigate the difficulties of this large project. So with that, I do want to point out that in front of you is a slightly revised version of the resolution, and I can just walk through a couple of the changes on that. What we did is we just added a little bit of verbiage to reflect the exact wording of the statute, and so there's just a little bit more of a description of the project in terms of what it entails. So if on page 2 of the handout here, you'll see that there's a little bit of a breakdown. The building will consist of office space, mechanics bays and workshops, warm storage and cold storage, and then together with associated infrastructure. The statute lays out that these are, the associated infrastructure is also eligible cost. And then I wanted to just address the numbers here as well. The statute asks to estimate the amount of, the time in which it will take to raise this amount of money. And in speaking with Oakdale and a couple other jurisdictions that have done this in the past as well, the amount of money that is asked for has generally remained in the document here, this resolution, the nominal amount that the building will cost on day one, so the amount that will pay the contractor and consultants to design and build the project. And then the amount of interest, because we don't know what bond rate would, the bond structure, all that kind of stuff, that is simply, we've got a little clause in there that says, so this is a $50 million building plus the cost of interest and financing. And so relative to that, we also understand that then raising $50 million is not enough, but that is a minimum. If you think about the idea that $2.5 million at the beginning of this would be what we would predict as the starting point for that sales tax revenue. And then of course, as prices go up, that tax revenue goes up. As growth happens, as there's more retail and more sales in our city, then that revenue goes up as well. So it's likely that we will raise more than 50 million, but that is a sort of bare minimum base value. And then we've left it open here as to whether or not you would set an ending date. The statute does not require you to do that. The statute says you can leave the tax in place until the project is funded in full. So essentially the only thing we're putting a ceiling on here with this resolution would be the $50 million mark. So with this resolution, we would really not be able to raise that amount higher. And I think if I could look everyone in the eyes down the line here, we're pretty committed to that number, I think, and being that number or lower, right? And so I think we're in a good spot there. Oftentimes other jurisdictions have put an end date on the tax to sort of say that whichever comes first, we either raise this amount of money or this date we're going to end it. And you can choose to do that, I think, down the line. I'd rather you keep that open right now, just because, again, we don't know what interest rates are going to be like when we go to bond for this. Could be good news, could be bad news, anywhere in between. So I just wanted to explain those numbers and so people can get an idea of that. Yes, we understand that $50 million is not the total amount we need to raise. We would need to raise more than that, or supplement with general funds. And I think that may be part of the overall financing plan at the end of this as well, is that there might be a combination of sales tax and general fund and or utility fund revenue. As we've initially budgeted this, right, we've talked about half and half being from the general fund, half being from the utility funds through user fees as well. So there's a number of different ways to put this all together. This resolution tries to keep this as open as possible so that we have as many different options as we can. Explain anything further if I could?
Just one point of clarification. So there's numbers and years in here, but correct me if I'm wrong, the real sentence or the most important sentence relative to the longevity of this sales tax is that last sentence where it says it will expire upon full funding of the project consistent with Minnesota statutes.
Yeah, you'll notice the word approximately in front of that 20 years, and that's the statute. I think I have it right here. I could read it to you. It's highlighted so I can't miss it. So the resolution must include the following information. The estimated time needed to raise that amount is what's required. So they don't require you to put a solid end date on it. Obviously, that's an estimated time that we think we can raise $50 million. If we endeavor to raise more than that, we could extend that until the project is fully funded, and that number will be north of 50 million because of interest that we would pay. So.
Okay. But I think the important part of that is to call out the fact that this isn't a forever tax.
That's correct.
It is project-specific.
Yeah.
Because I know that's already been talked about, and I know this idea of a local area sales tax was talked about, been talked about for quite a while, long before I was on the council. When I first heard about it, I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because that basic assumption is that, yeah, taxes come and never go.
That's often discussed when there's school levies, right? There's always that fear that, oh, that levy it'll just be too easy for that governing body to just want to keep that levy on and use it for something else. That is not the case here. We would have to go back to the voters to extend it. Actually, Oakdale just did that. They started the project and realized they had, inflation that got the best of them. They were behind by, I don't know, 8 or 9 million. They went back to the voters, and the voters approved an additional 8 or 9 million. So we could go back, but the voters get to choose that at that point.
Yes, which is important.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Questions or comments?
One comment I guess I do have is, at least if we can get this message out and get the voters to agree, a large percentage of this, a larger percentage comes from people who visit our city and are using a lot of the facilities and a lot of the infrastructure in our cities and the restaurants and the bar, et cetera, and additional businesses that we never really, as a city, collect any revenue, but they are very hard on all of our city services.
Yeah, and so I can just add too, like this, I will be supporting this evening, but this by no means is the end. As Administrator Stotts has talked about, there'll be, I'm assuming, some public hearing of some sort. There will be a referendum. People do get the opportunity to vote on this. And just because any of us may or may not approve this tonight, doesn't mean that we're fully on board until we get all the numbers and facts back and we get to go ahead with the legislature. This is just a step, so at least we can continue to contemplate this as this project moves forward. With that, I'm willing to entertain a motion if
I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution authorizing the city of Forest Lake to submit a request to the Minnesota legislature seeking authorization to impose a 0.5% local option sales tax to support designated public works capital improvement projects subject to subsequent voter approval.
motions are second.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 9, discussion. There's nothing there this evening, so we'll go right into staff updates, and we'll start with Ellie.
We are in full swing of year-end here in finance. We have our preliminary audit dates set in February, and then they will be back for a week in April, with the assumption of that audit coming back to the council in June at a meeting. Going into the audit, I have no major concerns. We had a couple prelim meetings. This will be my first year running the audit here at the City of Forest Lake. Our auditors seem great. And then with that, just year-end utility bills are going out. If people have questions about those, my staff is very receptive. Just if there's any questions as we get to year-end and bills come out, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. Ryan?
Mayor, City Council, nothing specific other than just kind of giving you guys a heads up. Washington County is probably going to be attending our City Council workshop in February to talk about County Road 32 and our next steps, plans moving forward with that. Other than that, any questions you might have?
Jolene?
This microphone.
Good.
Quick update that we are now live on governmentjobs.com. This has been a labor of love for about the last 6 months with myself, and when our new HR generalist came on board, she's really taken a huge chunk of building this program out for us. So that just means that our job postings are much more modernized and accessible, and we'll have a further reach. So that's exciting news for the staff here and for folks who are wanting to join our team. So check that out on governmentjobs.com, or else there's also a link on our website that will bring you to our page for that. Our wellness committee has launched and is well underway. I'm excited about the work that they're doing to support our staff here in-house to highlight and encourage wellness incentives. And our safety committee, which will be led by none other than Dave Adams, will be meeting for the first time this week. And this is exciting as well, although it's safety focused, so some people might not think it's quite as exciting, but it is mandatory that we have this committee. The city has not had one previously, so we're excited to get this going and make sure that we are focused on staff safety in the workplace.
Questions for Julie? Abby?
Just a few updates last week. Mayor Roberts, Mark Stotts, and I met with a number of different regional, county, and state partners regarding transportation efforts in the community. So they'll start to see some conversations happening and some service expansion within the community that I have already, I think, mentioned at various times. Also, last week was our first of the year watershed district kind of permit coordinators meeting. So this is some of our frontline staff, our permit inspectors, plan reviewers that are meeting with watershed district plan reviewers, permit staff. Right now, we're looking at the potential of up to 7 residential developments that'll be going through the entitlement process this spring, this late winter, spring. So you'll probably start seeing some of that coming through, but our offices are pretty busy right now with new residential land development review. Happy to answer any additional questions you might have.
What would those 7, do you have any idea, equate to number of rooftops, units? Do you know?
I'd have to take a look.
Okay.
Some of them are too premature to even say this is how many. I can tell you, I mean, you know, if we're up to them, we'd have thousands. But yeah, I mean, we're looking at, you know, several hundred new lots probably going to be entitled this spring at least. Doesn't mean they'll all be built this year, but we also are seeing less of our developers are less inclined to propose phasing plans. So where we might have seen in the past, you know, smaller phases, we're not seeing that same sort of thing with some of these other ones coming forward. So kind of exciting.
Yeah. Senate Dave?
No updates.
Peterson?
No updates.
Keith Newman?
No updates.
Amanda?
No update.
Mark?
Just want to, I thought Alan would maybe sing the praises of the sales of our trucks that we sold for, come on, Alan, give him the update, give him a good update.
So we did sell 2 vehicles on the min bid auction. The first vehicle, which was a 2001 Ford F-250, we purchased it for $26,000 originally, and we sold it for $19,800. The other truck was a 2005 Ford F-350, sold that for $23,800, and that was donated back in 2005.
Got about 2 vehicles for 20-some plus years for $5,000. Seems like a pretty good deal.
Just a quick follow-up question. Do those dollars go to stay specifically within the fire department budget? Is that capital equipment?
It will go into the capital equipment budget minus the 20% that goes back to Columbus as their share of the original purchase.
Just a quick reminder that we do have an airport commission meeting on February 4th.
Councilmember Miller?
No updates.
Member Erickson?
No updates this evening.
Councilmember Larson?
Just a planning commission meeting on Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Please tune in or show up. Thank you.
I don't have anything either. Thank you, everyone, tonight for preparing for the meeting and presenting, and enjoy a nice evening, early evening off on a Monday. So, great. Anyone make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.